Sakıp Sabancı için çalışmak ve paylaşmak,
Working and sharing for Sakıp Sabancı has been one of the most important values for him. So the greatest homework that he inherited to us is that you start with your hands, you hold the earth and the pen with your hands. So whatever a job you do, you should at the end of the day leave a mark behind you. Sakıp Sabancı always believed that the labor of today will be at the service of tomorrow. So he knew that every opportunity that we created would strengthen the future generations, and he understood this fact at a very early age. Throughout his life, he always tried to instill this conscience to everyone surrounding him. So his hands touched on different doors, building bridges to the future, and he contributed remarkably to the education and art. As a result, he left such a bright mark after himself. On the 22nd year of commemoration of him passing away, we remember him with the International Research Awards. Distinguished state officials, distinguished guests, welcome to the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards ceremony. My name is Abbas Kızıl, a senior student in the Computer Science and Engineering program at Sabancı University. I continue to my education on a scholarship provided by Sabancı University. I'm a bit excited and I'm so honored to be together with you, and I kindly ask for your understanding. First of all, I would like to invite the chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Sabancı University, Mr. Hayri Çulhacı, to deliver the opening remarks. Distinguished guests, distinguished members of the academic community, and distinguished family of Sakıp Sabancı, and dear guests, I would like to thank you very much for being with us on this meaningful day and extend my greetings to you with respect and affection on behalf of the Board of Trustees of Sabancı University. Welcome. Today, we have come together to once again commemorate Sakıp Sabancı, the honorary president of our university, with respect and longing on the 22nd anniversary of his passing, and in a line with his inheritance. Today, at the same time, we will be announcing the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards, established in accordance with his will. As you know, Mr. Sakıp was a highly successful businessman, and he was passionate. He was always passionate in the business world, but he was so energetic that his passion often went beyond the work he was doing. He had two greatest passions. One of them was the Sakıp Sabancı Museum, which he brought to life by transforming the house he lived in, and the other was a world-quality university. And I do believe he successfully realized both of those passions during his lifetime. And he created such a wonderful museum in Istanbul, and I do believe he constructed one of the best universities of Turkey. And we certainly wish he could have witnessed the level our university has reached today, and I'm certain that his pride would have multiplied. Well, it has been 26 years since the foundation of our university. At this very point we have reached today, we have thousands of alumni, thousands of scientific publications, and very strong academia and industry cooperations and collaborations. And our university has attained a respected position both nationally and internationally. Sabancı University is not merely an institution that provides education, but at the same time, it is a structure that produces knowledge and develops ideas for our country and for the whole world. And Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards are an important part of this understanding. This evening, we will present the Jury Special Award to a distinguished scholar who has made a global impact in his field, but at the same time, we will also honor the work of our young researchers, and I congratulate them in advance. And I would like to thank them for their contributions to the world of science. Distinguished guests, we are living in a time when uncertainties are increasing, borders are being redefined, and global balances are being reshaped from scratch. In this period of transformation, we definitely need scientific thinking, free research, and interdisciplinary perspectives more than ever. As Sabancı University, we are committed to contributing to the future under the guidance of science by safeguarding critical thinking and a free academic environment. In times of uncertainty and ambiguity, our greatest strength is our commitment to reason and science. And we know that investment in science is the highest yield investment because its impact transforms not only today but generations. That is why what is being inherited to us by Sakıp Sabancı also bring along many responsibilities for future. So our duty today is not only to cherish this inheritance, but at the same time carry it to the future in line with the prerequisites of the contemporary age. On this occasion, I would like to thank Melisa Sabancı Tapan, the member of the Board of Trustees of Sabancı University, for leading this meaningful awards process. And I would like to thank Dilek Sabancı, Türkan Sabancı, and Sevi Sabancı, and all Sabancı family members for their unwavering support. And I also would like to thank Professor Mert Moral, who chaired this year's jury, and our international jury members, both from Turkey and abroad. Thank you all for your participation, and I greet you all with respect. We thank Mr. Hayri Çulhacı for his remarks. This year, the awards will be presented for the 22nd time under the theme of rethinking governance beyond borders. But before announcing the awards, in order to deliver her speech, I would like to invite Melisa Sabancı Tapan to deliver her speech. Esteemed state officials, distinguished academics, dear friends of my late grandfather Sakıp Sabancı, distinguished guests, my dear family, and our valued audience following this ceremony from their screens. I thank you all for being with us on this meaningful event. Thank you so much. Distinguished guests, I would like to ask something of you for a brief moment. Let us take a breath together. Hold it for a moment and release. This breath we take and give is the simplest proof of our existence and our mortality. And in this sense, our interconnectedness is undeniable. We are all connected to one another and we all need each other. And in fact, whether we are aware of it or not, there is a contract between us and among us, a transboundary and existential contract based on trust. My grandfather Sakıp Sabancı's belief in unity and solidarity was rooted precisely in this idea. Today, the awards we present in his name represent not only academic achievement but also the continuation of this bond and this responsibility. Well, from war all the way to the pandemic, we are facing with many challenges today, and all those challenges indeed make our responsibilities even graver. Well, this vast transformation from artificial intelligence to data architecture demonstrates that it lies not only within the realm of technology, but at the very center of democracy, labor, and global order. If we fail to govern this power in a fair and just manner, we risk creating new inequalities and weakening our social values rather than strengthening the bonds among us. Well, with this sense of responsibility and drawing the strength from Sakıp Sabancı's vision, one that always interpreted both the present and the future, we have determined the theme of the 2027 awards as regulating intelligence, democracy, markets, and global order in the digital age. Because we all know that it is no longer sufficient merely to use technology. We should govern it in a way that serves human dignity and our shared future. And to develop this capacity for governance and find sound answers to complex questions, we need the guidance of science more than ever, as it was inherited to us by our founder, and as Mr. Hayri mentioned in his speech. Academic research constitutes one of the strongest foundations of this pursuit because it doesn't only produce answers, but it also determines which questions should be asked. And the nature of the challenges we face today requires exactly this, not more certainty, but a greater effort to understand. And we are making another layer to our existence to be able to remain human. This in turn places upon all of us the responsibility to do our very best for one another. Sakıp Sabancı used to say, pursue unity and solidarity in every endeavor and at every opportunity. Our coming together here today is the clearest indication that this pursuit continues. It is indeed an honor to keep my grandfather's legacy alive through this unity, and I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the members of the jury, Sabancı University team who contributed to this award ceremony, and all our distinguished guests for helping us. Thank you very much.
We would like to thank dear Miss Melissa Sabancı Tapan, distinguished guests. Now, the moment we have all been waiting for has arrived, and now I would like to invite the chair of the jury, Professor Mert Moral, faculty member at the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences of Sabancı University, to present the jury's reasoning and announce the award results. Distinguished Chair and members of the Board of Trustees and esteemed members of the Sabancı family, valued members of Sabancı University, dear guests, students and alumni, welcome to this meaningful ceremony organized to honor the memory of the late Sakıp Sabancı and to present this year's laureates the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards, which I believe best reflects the late Sakıp Sabancı's vision. As we commemorate the 22nd anniversary of his passing with respect and gratitude, I consider it a duty to recall and remind his significant contributions to and the high value he placed on social sciences. First, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude on behalf of Sabancı University to each of our distinguished jury members who evaluated the submissions with great dedication and rigor throughout the award process. This year's theme is Planetary Realities, Rethinking Governance Beyond Borders, was chosen to open a scholarly discussion on the extent to which borderless global challenges such as the climate crisis and digital information regimes and the sharing of space resources and pandemics are forcing in existing governance structures to change and to encourage scholars from different social science disciplines. And the key questions that emerged in this year's award submissions were as follows: what local and global ethical, theoretical, and empirical frameworks and what the new forms of governance built upon them can address global changes in an increasingly digital world, how we can information and data be democratized, and how can a bridge between local and global build on foundations on justice, equality, and ethics. We received a large number of original submissions from various social science disciplines, employing diverse research methods and theoretical approaches in pursuit of answers to these research questions, and our jury evaluated these submissions anonymously on the basis of scientific excellence and relevance to this year's theme and methodological and theoretical innovation and contribution to the social sciences. I congratulate all the scholars who submitted their valuable work and thank all who participated in this scholarly discussion. And the two studies in our jury deemed worthy of the award remind us that borderless challenges require not merely the development of new policies in specific domains, but a fundamental rethinking of the concept of governance. And I would like to briefly highlight why these two studies were found worthy of 2026 Sakıp Sabancı International Research Award essay prizes, underscoring that there is no ranking between them. Dr. Esra Demir's entitled Planetary Descent, Global Movements, Protective Criminalization, and the Exhaustion of Sovereignty. And today, artificial intelligence is much more embedded in our lives, and who must be organizing these technologies. And the article examines collective action that transcends national borders across a broad spectrum. And the Brussels approach might lead to important gaps in terms of the normative effects of artificial intelligence, and it is not focusing only on the protective criminalization. It is also actually revealing that democratization is coming as an important part. Technology is developing, but is it possible not to compensate from technology? Dr. Esra graduated from Istanbul University in 2017, graduated from the legal faculty in her study in European approach to the regulation of artificial intelligence and potential path for achieving technological innovation without compromising. And Dr. Esra Demir's specialties include biodata governance, and her research interests are information law and personal data protection. I sincerely congratulate Dr. Esra Demir on her award-winning study. Barış Çaylı Messina's study entitled Planetary Descent and the Global Movements and Protective Criminalization and the Exhaustion of Sovereignty. And this article examines collective action that transcends national borders across a broad spectrum, from the global climate strike in which nearly 7 million people took to the streets almost simultaneously in 185 countries, to the civil society organizations that assumed the task of rescuing refugees in the Mediterranean after European states abandoned them to their fate. And the article argues that these movements call into question the very notion of territory-based sovereignty, and by advancing the concept of protective criminalization, the article seeks to explain why both democratic and authoritarian regimes respond to these movements with similar repressive methods. And our jury members decided to award Associate Professor Çaylı Messina's research for the systematic exposition of the spatial, temporal, and epistemic limits of sovereignty, and for confronting us with the following question: can a governance structure built on a border context be adequate for solving today's borderless challenges and threats? Associates. Barış Çaylı Messina received his PhD in Law, Politics and Social Sciences in 2012 from the University of Camarino and is currently an associate professor at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences at the University of Lincoln. His research interests are sociology of conflict and violence, comparative historical sociology, and the power structures and processes of social resistance. I sincerely congratulate Dr. Barış Çaylı Messina on his award-winning study. First of all, we would like to invite dear academicians with award-winning studies.
Ortaya doğru alabilir.
And now, dear Sevil Sabancı, to present the awards to the winners, I would like to invite Sevil Sabancı and Senem Aydın Düzge to the stage, please. Can you please approach towards the center of the stage? I would like to bring you together for a group photo. I would like to thank you all. Distinguished guests, now we will hear the speeches of the winners. First of all, Sakıp Sabancı Research Awards honor, Ms. Esra Demir. I would like to invite to the stage for the speech. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2026 Sakıp Sabancı International Research Award, and I'm very happy to be awarded this award, and I would like to share my happiness with you. On this occasion, I would like to thank Sabancı University and the valuable jury members for giving me this award. In the field, my work in the field of information and technology law generally focuses on the regulation of technology. In this context, I study the regulatory approaches, techniques, and instruments used to promote technological innovation without compromising fundamental values. In my award-winning article, I addressed this issue using specifically in the context of artificial intelligence. While artificial intelligence technologies offer many opportunities that make our lives easier through various tools and services, they also expose us to numerous challenges that might threaten our fundamental rights and freedoms. This is related to the regulatory effect of AI technologies on shaping our behavior in certain directions. In other words, their normative impact. The normativity of artificial intelligence is among today's cross-border challenges. How we address these challenges is closely linked to the kind of future we aspire to build. From an idealist perspective, legal regulation of artificial intelligence should both encourage technological innovation and ensure the protection of our fundamental values. Efforts toward this ideal are currently on the agenda of lawmakers worldwide. In my article, taking into account the regulatory ideal of achieving both innovation and protection, I examined two artificial intelligence regulations adopted in 2024 by two European institutions. One is the Artificial Intelligence Act, adopted by the European Union, known as the Brussels Effect. It holds the power of unilateral regulatory globalization through initiatives such as the Brussels Effect. And the other is the Framework Convention on Artificial Intelligence, Human Rights, and Democracy and the Rule of Law, open for signature by the Council of Europe, the ultimate guardian of fundamental rights and freedoms in Europe. In my study, I analyzed these two legal frameworks in terms of their regulatory objectives, approaches, and techniques, and assessed their contribution to achieving both innovation and protection. As a result of my research, I highlighted the strengths and weaknesses of these frameworks developed by Brussels and Strasbourg and argued that considering Brussels' market power and institutional capacity together with Strasbourg's uncompromising commitment to the protection of fundamental values may offer a potential path toward achieving the regulatory ideal of balancing innovation and protection. In this regard, I believe it is important for relevant institutions and organizations to consider these two frameworks as complementary in future work on artificial intelligence. I would like to conclude by thanking my dear family and my institution, Ankara University, for their support. Thank you very much once again, and I wish you a good evening. We would like to thank for the speech. And now, I would like to invite the other article award winner, Barış Çaylı Messina, to the stage, please. Değerli jüri
Let me take you to a moment. August 2018. Sits a 15-year-old girl, Greta Thunberg, sits alone outside Swedish Parliament. A handwritten sign only, no crowd, no organization behind her. 14 months later, more than 6 million people filled the streets from across the world and from Jakarta to Istanbul. No government orchestrated this, and no authority summoned it. And elsewhere, far from the spotlight, in the forests of Colombia and Brazil, people stood between ancient trees and the machines sent to erase them. In 2023, 196 land and environmental defenders were killed worldwide, one every 2 days. Most names never reached us. Why does this provoke fear? This is the question I'm asking. Because something is being exposed. Governments speak of responsibility to future generations. Yet those who act on these promises are punished. Not only in authoritarian regimes. In the United Kingdom, peaceful protesters have received severe sentences. In Germany, activists were arrested, detained, even before acting. In France, they were branded eco-terrorists. We are living through an inversion. The alarm is perceived as a threat, while the fire continues to burn. My work starts at this point. In my work, I developed 3 points. These movements actually hold up a mirror to us, and what these governments actually see is not danger. It is actually their own limits. Across the world, the consequences are already unfolding. A farmer in sub-Saharan Africa watches the land fail him. Families displaced by drought and flood cross the Mediterranean in fragile boats. Over 100,000 people have been pulled from those waters by rescued ships, yet those rescuers have been arrested. They are vessel-sized. Saving a life becomes a crime. It is as if the map, no longer matches the terrain, and still we are told to trust it. To make sense of this, I developed 3 concepts. The first is planetary descent. It emerges when institutions fail and fail short, and where people act because they know that no one else will. The second is protective criminalization. Punishment doesn't shield the public, but it protects the state from exposure. The third is sovereignty exhaustion. It is the collapse of a promise that governments manage crisis. In the present moment, they can't. Across different systems, the pattern repeats. Authority is defended, limits remain unspoken. Sakıp Sabancı once said, "Do not sacrifice do not sacrifice your ideals and your values. Yet those on the streets, in forests, and at sea, they carry that principle of Sakıp Sabancı forward. No certainty, still they act. Let me end with a simple image. A patient goes to a doctor in pain. Instead of treatment, the doctor asks for silence. Stop describing the symptom. That is what climate politics often looks like. But no patient recovers by silence. We need more cooperation and collective care. Scholarship, perhaps, alone won't stop a rising sea, but it can refuse resignation. It can name what is happening clearly and without fear. I am deeply honored to receive this award. The questions that matter don't stop at borders. Neither should the courage to ask them. Thank you.
We would like to thank Mr. Barış for his speech. Distinguished guests, Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards, as you know, provides essay awards, but in addition to that, they also provide jury special award to a distinguished scholar who has made the most significant contributions. And now I would like to invite our jury chair, Professor Mert Moral, once again to the rostrum, please. Distinguished guests, as of 2012, the Sakıp Sabancı International Research Awards Jury Special Prize has been presented to honor the most distinguished scholars who made outstanding lifetime contributions in the social sciences, particularly in relation to the given year's theme. In our jury, which I have the honor to chair, has once again unanimously selected from among the nominees the scholar who has made the most valuable contribution throughout their career to this year's theme, Rethinking Transnational Governance for 2026. In a moment, I will announce the name of an exceptional scholar who has profoundly shaped the fields of international relations and comparative politics for nearly half a century, who has expanded the boundaries of the discipline through major theoretical contributions, original concepts, and numerous seminal works, and who has helped shape the future of political science through the scholars they have trained. The recipient of the jury's special prize works in comparative political economy, international security and regional studies, and political theory. He received his PhD from Harvard University in 1973 and currently serves as the Walter S. Carpenter Jr. Professor and Professor of International Studies at Cornell University. As early as 1985, by examining how 7 European democracies adapted to global markets, he introduced the concept of democratic corporatism to political science and laid the foundations of what we know as the varieties of capitalism literature. In his 1996 work, considered a foundational text of constructivism in security studies, he demonstrated that national security policies are shaped not only by material power balances, but also by norms, identities, and cultural contexts. In his more recent work, he conceptualized the distinction between control power evolving under conditions of calculable risk and the protean power emerging from creative adaptation under uncertainty, thereby introducing a new concept and perspective to power analysis in international relations. To this date, this distinguished scholar has published 184 articles and book chapters, as well as 48 books and edited volumes, including several canonical works. His research has shaped the development of social sciences in many countries, including Turkey, and continues to do so. Moreover, through his role as chair or member of doctoral committees for over 140 scholars, he is recognized as the founder of the constructivist Cornell School. In 2020, he was awarded the Johann Skytte Prize, the most prestigious award in political science, for his contributions to understanding how history, culture, and norms shape economies and national and global security policies. He has received honorary doctorates from leading universities in 5 countries and served as president of American Political Science Association between 2008 and 2009. In addition, he has been elected the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the American Philosophical Society, and the British Academy. Without further delay, I'd like to announce the recipient of 2026 Sakıp Sabancı International Jury Special Prize and briefly highlight the contributions of this remarkable academic career. And this year's Jury Special Prize goes to Professor Peter J. Katzenstein.
2026 yılının teması özelinde
In light of this year's theme and especially recent developments in our region, Professor Katzenstein's work offers an important perspective on why transnational governance is so difficult and how it can be made possible. Well, although it is impossible to summarize a half-a-century academic career in a short time, the key insight may be as follows. Since nations' historical experiences and cultural identities are reproduced despite globalization and similar external shocks, imposing uniform solutions to global problems is insufficient. This is precisely where Katzenstein's argument of analytical eclecticism comes into play. Understanding global problems becomes possible through an integrative research strategy that doesn't adhere to a single paradigm but instead draws on multiple theoretical traditions and seeks to bridge the gap between theory and policy. In his recent book published last year by Cambridge University Press, Professor Katzenstein questions the Newtonian worldview underlying traditional theories and proposes a post-Newtonian perspective. He shows that global-scale problems such as financial crises, nuclear threats, global warming, and artificial intelligence emerge in contexts where risk and uncertainty become entangled, and he advocates intellectual humility and eclectic pragmatism as a strategy for addressing them. This call is perhaps more relevant than ever in today's world, which faces transnational challenges ranging from the climate crisis to digital governance. The Cornell School he founded, along with the leading young scholars he has trained, stands as the most vivid testament to his intellectual legacy. It is my great honor to present the 2026 Sakıp Sabancı International Jury Special Award to Professor Peter J. Katzenstein for his outstanding academic achievements and its contributions to the fields of international relations and comparative politics. But now we will watch our short Jury Special Award film together.
Mentorship,
Erudite.
generosity,
He's a mentor.
and generous.
Inclusiveness.
Humility. Curiosity.
Peter is courageous.
Energy. Boy, energy.
Peter, can you tell us where we're going?
We're going right now to, I think, Suzanne's house, but there was some change in plans. We're going to Suzanne's house. I am a professor at Cornell. I have been a professor at Cornell for over 50 years, which is pretty unusual in America. Most people change their jobs. I looked for a job initially which would be in a university town. I come from Germany, and university towns have a special standing. Fewer distractions. You focus on reading, writing, teaching. And Ithaca is a wonderful place to do that. The weather isn't quite as good as people like it to be, but it is Ithaca after all, and all destinations.
What's distinctive about Peter as an author is a humility. He knows what he can't do. He knows what he's not very good at doing, even though he is constantly trying to become better, to ameliorate the work that he does. And he is quite humble in what he's willing to accept from someone who doesn't have expertise in his field and is certainly nowhere near as smart as he is, but who nevertheless can form an opinion that may be of some use as he starts to think about, not about the structure of the argument, but the way in which that argument is received by a readership.
Peter has always been able to operate at both levels. He is a theorist, well-read in a way that most IR scholars can only envy. But he also has deep, deep knowledge of the individual places and peoples that he's studying I find admirable.
He makes that point by making the distinction in observing international politics and much else between risk and uncertainty. He argues that what we often see as in the domain of risk, something that's calculable, that you can make predictions on the basis of by using probabilities, doesn't really apply because what we're really seeing is uncertainty. And uncertainty is not susceptible to calculation or prediction.
Peter's most important contribution, because there are so many of them, but I think one of the impactful interventions that he's had on the field is helping us understand power by insisting that we also have to take seriously norms, collective identities, and also domestic structures in international politics, so that these are not secondary to international politics, but constitutive of it.
Entanglement is a concept very common in quantum physics. But it's, you can be entangled with another person. We use it also in conventional language. For example, I wear a bracelet for the last 15 years or so, which a friend gave me when she had a very acute case of cancer. It was not sure that she would survive it. And the bracelet says, nobody fights alone. I look at it every morning when I take a shower. It strikes me as one of the basic insights of human life. John Donne wrote a poem called No Man is an Island. So we can pretend to be islands, we can choose to fight alone, but I think that is not the human condition.
I discovered that he has had this up to today, this tremendous capacity to read, understand, and get prepared for things. Peter doesn't do things without having really thought about them.
Well, they might not know that he's not only an outstanding and prize-winning teacher and scholar, but he's something of a Renaissance person. He is a musician. He plays the violin. He's an athlete. He was thinking of going into sports before he decided to come to the United States and study here back in Germany.
Peter just lived up in a different form in the squash court, and I just had to say it was a devastating loss. And probably I fear now, if we would go today into the court again, and now he's even a bit older than he was at that time, I would lose again. I fear.
Making smart decisions about their lives, not just their professional and intellectual lives, but their lives, and decisions they can live with, then I think I've been a good mentor. That's what I would hope.
I don't think I could have made it through without that support and encouragement. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your friendship, and thank you for putting up with me for, boy, what is it now, 45, 46 years.
Well-deserved congratulations, Peter.
Thank him for the lifetime of inspiration.
Thank you very much, Peter, for everything you've done for me.
He changed my intellectual life and my career trajectory in 1,000 ways, and I can never thank him enough for that.
Peter, and congratulations.
So I would say to Peter, thank you for being the doctor father that I needed at exactly that time.
Congratulations, Peter. You fully deserve this award. You deserve any awards that you get. You are remarkable because you are continuing to innovate and develop new ideas at age 80, which is extremely unusual.
Maybe some of the things that you hear sounded exaggerated to you, but it is not. It's just the truth. You are great, and therefore all what you hear in this movie is true. That's what I would like to say.
Well, it means a whole lot. First of all, it's a very prestigious prize. It comes from a first-rate university operating in a difficult political situation. I am at a first-rate university, operating in a difficult political situation. So I have a very clear sense of what it takes to teach and research in those circumstances. Getting this prize from this university at this time has particular meaning for me.
Now we invite the recipient of Jury Special Award winner, Mr. Katzenstein, whose film we have just watched, to the stage, please. To present the award, I would like to invite our Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Hayri Çulhacı, and our Rector, Professor Yusuf Leblebici, to the stage, please.
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much. And now we will listen to Professor Katzenstein's remarks.
Good evening. I am extremely grateful to the Sabancı Foundation and Sabancı University for the invitation and the honor that it entails, and to all of you for making time in your busy schedules to take part in this event. I learned that the original meaning of Sabancı means working the land. Hacı Ömer Sabancı worked as a laborer, picking cotton on a plantation, before becoming broker, a trader, and a manufacturer of textiles in the 1930s. Subsequently, he created one of the largest business conglomerates in Turkey. He surely did not expect that a century later his family would have risen to such heights that it could establish a famous foundation and a first-rate university. Both are testimony to a deep commitment to critical inquiry, learning, and democracy. Values always and everywhere open to serious challenge. I was totally surprised when I received the message that I had been selected as this year's that's dangerous. As this year's recipient of the International Research Award. And so I've chosen surprise as the topic for my brief remarks tonight. Our ignorance is unavoidable, remediable, and full of surprise. Some surprises are well described by the term of risk. When it is cloudy in the morning, there's a risk of rain in the afternoon, as was true today. And that risk can be expressed numerically. Other surprises are better described in terms of uncertainty. Planning a year in advance an outdoor event on April 7th, 2027 at the foundation would be hampered by total uncertainty about the weather. Taking the form of both risk and uncertainty, throughout my life, surprise has been my constant companion. While I'll tell you a few stories about surprise, risk, and uncertainty, perhaps you will be able to recall some of your own. We do not live only pre-programmed lives shaped probabilistically by our genes, our upbringing and environment. Often, we also discover our unknown potentialities. Luck matters. Machiavelli called it fortuna. Fickle and unpredictable, fortuna invites the prince to dance as long as he has the required amount of virtu, not virtue, but the capacity to seize the moment. I recall vividly one of those moments as an undergraduate student at Swarthmore College. In my junior and senior year, I only enrolled in 8 small, ungraded seminars. At the end of my senior year, I took 8 written and 8 oral examinations that were administered by external examiners who did not know the students or how they had done in their classes. In one of my seminars, I had read all of Shakespeare's 37 plays. The exam asked for an essay discussing a quote taken from King Lear, Act 5, Scene 3, where a delusional, childlike Lear seeks to convince Cordelia, his daughter, that in prison they will sing as beautifully as birds in a cage. The quote ends with, "Upon such sacrifices, the gods themselves throw incense." As a foreign student, I was not sure about the meaning of the word incense. I walked up to the proctor of the exam and asked whether I could consult a dictionary and was told that that was not possible. While preparing for the exam, I confronted total uncertainty about the question the exam would pose. And it never occurred to me that the meaning of a particular word might become an issue. But in the exam room itself, I had to guess. Was incense aromatic stuff releasing fragrant smoke when burned? Or was it illicit sexual activity? The probability for picking the correct answer to that question was 50%. This was the last of 8 exams, with spring outside and uncaged birds singing beautifully. I made my choice and wrote a full-blooded Freudian interpretation about the importance of incest, not incense, in Shakespeare's great tragedy. Surprise, surprise. Mixing uncertainty and risk. When students ask me about their life's plan, I tell them about Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Lyndon Wells II. As part of the 2001 Quadrennial Defense Report, he briefly surveyed the astonishing changes of national security and defense in the 20th century. With an admirable sense of irony, he captured succinctly the challenge of trying to forecast the events of the next decade when he wrote, "I'm not sure what 2010 will look like, but I'm sure that it will very little have to do with what we expect. So we should plan accordingly." In my teaching and writing about politics, I've encountered surprise many times. The opening of the Berlin Wall, November 9th, 1989, sticks in my mind. During the fall of 1989, mass demonstrations had spread from Dresden, eventually reaching East Berlin. East Germany's regime was clearly at risk. But the opening of the Berlin Wall itself was a set of contingent events and choices made under conditions of uncertainty. Together with many other specialists of German politics, I was caught by surprise, conjoining risk and uncertainty. Most of us, most of the time, are surprised as all too many of our predictions fail to come true. But after things have happened, and with the benefit of 2020 hindsight, we are smart and confident and put aside our unsettling experiences with uncertainty. Surprise is a feature of a world filled with chance events. Translating Max Weber's Economy and Society in 1947, Talcott Parsons explains in a footnote the 2 meanings of the term chance in German. Probability oder Wahrscheinlichkeit means risk. Possibility oder Möglichkeit means uncertainty. Parsons added a warning, long forgotten. Do not collapse these two meanings. Understood as chance event, the concept of surprise is treating probability and possibility as synonyms, inviting all sorts of troubles. The social sciences, including the science of world politics, sideline uncertainty. It looks to me like we are all afraid of uncertainty because we are afraid of losing control. Instead, we believe fervently that everything can be calculated. Numbers have become our gods. They make us feel safe. P-doom, that is a probability of doom, is a measure of risk used in Silicon Valley these days. Is that measure not, I wonder, a way of taming our fear of the uncertainties brought about by AI? Here and elsewhere, risk and uncertainty bleed into one another, creating the risk-uncertainty conundrum. So let me give you two examples. The first one is the financial crisis of 2008. That crisis was brought about by the success of rational expectation theory, which had swept the field of finance economics and had been adopted by Wall Street very widely. The theory was based on a host of strong assumptions about human rationality. They were plausible, they were elegant, they were practical, and for a lot of people, they made a lot of money. It also succeeded in making invisible uncertainty, which always operates in financial markets. Rational expectation theory failed to take into account that many people are reasonable, not rational. In uncertain markets, they do not deny the existence of uncertainty, but rely on social conventions to cope with it. For them, rational expectation theory was a coping device that seemed useful because the vast majority of actors relied on it. These models turned out to be disastrously wrong in their prediction. The difference between the predicted and the actual default rate for securities rated as A+ was a stunning 36,000%. Millions lost their homes, creating a political backlash afflicting American politics to this day. After the dust had settled, the perplexed chairman of the Federal Reserve, Alan Greenspan, wrote a book, which he titled The Map in the Territory. The map describes the abstractions of rational expectation theory, which thinks of surprises only in terms of risk. The territory describes the real world with its irreducible uncertainty. Together, Greenspan acknowledged, map and territory create a world full of surprise. My second example is the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war. We should not forget those fateful 13 days of October. Today, the doomsday clock of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists is set at 85 seconds to midnight, which is closer than at any time since it was started in 1947. We think about nuclear war helped by rational deterrence theory. That theory was developed by Thomas Schelling, a Nobel Prize-winning economist. Schelling argued that the closer you get to the nuclear abyss, the greater the caution. The strategies of rational actors engaging in mutual risk-taking make nuclear war almost impossible. Then Secretary of State Dean Rusk believed in that theory when he famously whispered to McGeorge Bundy, the national security advisor of the president, "We are eyeball to eyeball." And I think the other fella just blinked. The many devoted followers of rational deterrence theory often overlook that Schelling disagreed with his own theory. He wrote about the threat that leaves something to chance. That threat operates not only in the domain of risk and probability, but also in the domain of uncertainty and possibility. The October crisis was solved because in the process of risk and crisis escalation, both Kennedy and Khrushchev learned that their real enemy was nuclear Armageddon. And they chose to make it, rather than each other, the enemy that needed to be defeated. One of the best books on the Cuban Missile Crisis calls Dean Rust's account bullshit. The president matters, but in a crisis full of surprises, mixing risk with uncertainty, he is not only the quarterback, he is also a mascot. Our conventional worldview combines Newtonianism with humanism. They are shaped by Sir Isaac Newton and the Enlightenment. Although this worldview and its development stopped at the end of the 19th century, it still informs most of our theories and models. In contrast to it, in the 20th century, sciences is shaped by two alternative worldviews that take full account of both risk and uncertainty. Post-Newtonianism incorporates Newtonianism as a special case. Quantum physics holds that the world is not a causal machine, but a creative generator of unfolding potentialities. That is uncertainty. With clever experiments exploring the domain of risk, quantum physics has created innumerable products that have transformed our lives. Parahumanism incorporates humanism, but operates beyond and around it. The life sciences hold that the world generates a heap of deeply entangled life forms. The non-human world is alive with intelligence and agency, mixing risk and uncertainty. Large-scale models and small-scale experiments explore the domain of risk to improve life and make it sustainable. Post-Newtonianism, parahumanism, and 20th century science take for granted that the risk-uncertainty conundrum cannot be avoided. Winnie the Pooh was fully attuned to their message. Asked whether he wanted honey or milk, he answered that he wanted both. Winnie was wise. Both and, not either or, helps us cope with the risk and uncertainty that makes life full of surprises. Post-Newtonianism and parahumanism make me wonder why we should assume that life unspools in linear time that can be measured by pre and post. What if time is curved, as the post-Newtonian Albert Einstein argued, throwing us screwballs, mixing the familiar with the surprising, and creating an entirely new risk and uncertainty conundrum? And what if space is not made up of discrete actors and objects, as the parahumanist Donna Haraway holds, entangling the human with other than human species, mixing the familiar with the surprising, and also creating an entirely new risk-uncertainty conundrum? These questions point to future surprises that our unavoidable and remediable ignorance may create. For some of you, this is perhaps too speculative, so let me end with one of Aesop's tried and tested fables, dealing with the frog, the snake, and the owl. Afraid of being devoured by the snake, the frog asked the owl, "What should I do?" And the owl replies cryptically, "Learn how to fly." And the frog followed the owl's advice. Confronted with unavoidable surprises, it did not try to soar majestically like the eagle. Instead, the frog cultivated its capacity to jump. Appearing to land on its stomach, it lands always on its feet. Thus, the frog retains the ability to jump again and again, changing its course as it makes its way. In a world of many surprises, Frogs did not find a solution to the risk uncertainty conundrum, but they did find a way to live with it. How then should we deal with surprise? Not with big leaps and final solutions that have caused so much harm and suffering in world history. Instead, I'd like to suggest to you tonight we should meet surprise with the agility of Aesop's frog, practically and with humility. Today's world has optimistic policemen dedicated to create order for the future and pessimistic firefighters devoted to mitigate harm in the here and now. Albert Camus was a firefighter when he wrote, "He who dedicates himself to history dedicates himself to nothing and is nothing. But he who dedicates himself to the duration of his life, to the house he builds, and to the dignity of mankind, dedicates himself to the earth and sustains the world again and again." Le Mythe de Sisyphe describes our arduous task as we cope with surprise. Sisyphus was condemned to push a heavy boulder up the hill again and again, and to watch as it rolled down the hill again and again. Camus ends his story, surprisingly, with hope, not despair. We must imagine Sisyphus to be happy. Thank you.
May I take you in the center of the stage? Sayın Peter,
We would like to thank Professor Peter Katzenstein for his speech, and we are pleased to continue hosting him on stage for a short while. Now, for the award photo session, I would like to invite to the stage Hayri Çulhacı, Sevil Sabancı, Melisa Sabancı Tapan, Yusuf Leblebici, Mert Moral, Senem Aydın Düzgit, Meltem Müftülerbaş, and all award recipients.
hoş geldiniz. Hayri Bey, sizi buraya alabilir miyiz? Efendim, sizden birinizi sol tarafa alıp... Hocam, bu tarafa geçebilir miyiz? Mert Hocam. Yok, şu an kalabilirsiniz. Yaklaşabilirsiniz. Efendim, sizleri bir süre daha...
We kindly host you on stage for a short while. Now for our group photo, we also would like to invite our distinguished state officials to the stage and our jury members as well.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, we have now come to the end of the 2026 Sakıp Sabancı International Research Award ceremony. Thank you for your participation in this meaningful evening, and once again, we commemorate the late Sakıp Sabancı with respect and affection. We hope you a wonderful evening.